is it fair to say that like And1 kind of invented the basketball mixtape? Because like I don't remember seeing, basketball. We're obviously, we were pre-internet, videos and YouTube and things of that nature. I remember, seeing the DVDs and getting the DVDs and watching the DVDs. It was like, did they? Basically, I don't remember any other basketball mixtapes. So,
my introduction. Okay, so I think And1. I think they put basketball mixtapes like on the map. Like they put it out there and really, showed the mass audience that hip hop and basketball kind of like go hand in hand. It's the same audience and it just works. But the first one that I actually saw was the VHS NBA Jam Session tapes, which you're 30 years old. You might have saw those. And those were dope, right? It had Big E. It had like who else was on there? Dang, I remember Big E had a song on there, a few other rappers, but it was just like a collection of NBA highlights. And I remember it was like Shaq's rookie year it came out, but it had Jordan, Dominique, everybody, and yeah, that was my first time seeing hip hop and basketball together on a mixtape. But I think those were niche at the time. The NBA is so popular today; it's hard to even picture the NBA putting out something that's like not for the masses and not. But I think at the time it was a really niche thing. You had to be really into basketball to even know about that tape. So,
for sure. When did it kind of blow up for you? Like at what point from like signing to And1 to like becoming this sensation, cultural phenomenon that's like just taking over streetball?
I mean, popularity of And1 was instant. It was like overnight, like literally. I remember when the show first aired, it was only a day or two before I was walking around and getting recognized like almost everywhere I went. And then after several weeks, it was like couldn't go anywhere without somebody asked for a picture or an autograph or something like that. And yeah, so I would love to know even, current day, I actually don't even know what the actual viewership was per episode, but that would have been a really interesting statistic. And then, my whole journey from there to today, a lot of exposure today, right? Because YouTube's similar, but it's been a journey of ups and downs. It wasn't always a takeoff and steadily incline.
For sure. And, you definitely played with a lot of legends in that era as well. Ray Alston was definitely one of those guys. I'm trying to picture some of those films. How close were you guys? Were you guys touring together, everything?
Skip to my Lou. Yeah. Well, he was one of my favorite guys, but no, he was a lot older than me. So I think when I was 18, he was really taking off in the NBA at that point. So the mixtape tour was less of a priority to him. I think he only played in like 5 games that first year, whereas like prior to that, he did all the games. But this was also the first or second like major tour. So, gosh, it's so much to it. But basically, Skip, he had to be at least 7-8 years older than me. I'm not sure exactly how much older he is than me, but he was looking at me more as like a young, like little bro, like even today, he was like, hey, we just exchange Instagram. He's like, love you, little bro, so that's how he viewed me. But it was interesting that he kind of had to distance himself from the And1 mixtape tour because back then Streetball had a different reputation. It was like bad in the conventional basketball world. So he was trying to go away from it. You know what I mean? Whereas it's interesting now because it has a different persona. Like a lot of NBA guys come up to me and be like, man, I love your stuff. I got friends who are assistant coaches in the NBA and they have high esteem for the skill that goes into it. Whereas back then they're like, oh, it's a circus, It just depends.
Very interesting point as well. Yeah, do you think, I guess, what has helped that? Is just the Drew League and things like that? It just transitioned NBA players respecting it, I guess?
Well, the Drew League really just got popular the last few years. Like the Drew League was always a thing in LA and it always had some of the top players in the world playing there. But I think with the emergence of YouTube really last like 5-6 years, I think the Drew League really took off. But I think the NBA respect with streetball in general, I think it dates all the way back to
Rafer even?
When guys were playing at the Rucker. And the Rucker was the Drew League's probably like the premier pro league. And I think that's because it has the most media and a lot of the best players today. But back then it was, obviously Rucker Park still, even in the early 2000s. And so, and even the And1 Mixtape Tour is interesting. Like, a lot of NBA guys played voluntarily. They just want to be a part of the hype because it was just such a fun atmosphere, and like the energy that those crowds came into the game with, I've never seen it been duplicated, to be honest. Like, once in a while I'll play in an exhibition game and you'll see that kind of momentum, but the energy that they brought to the game just initially and the excitement was hard to get anywhere else. So I think it dates back to NBA players who grew up watching it. You know what I mean? Grew up watching Rucker Park and when mixtapes, stuff like that.
For sure. I did want to ask you, what NBA legends or players or celebrities have shown you the most love over the years, and just, respect for what you do?
The most love, it's hard because I don't see a lot of guys oftentimes, but guys who always show loves, like, Shaquille O'Neal. A lot of people like follow me on Instagram. Like, I known Chris Brown for a long time. Like, he played on that one Mixtape Tour when he was like 16 or 17. But yeah, a lot of guys follow me on Instagram. Kyrie Irving's followed me for a long time. Westbrook, Drake. Who else in the NBA? Gosh, a lot of guys. I worked out Jeremy Lin one time. Jamal Crawford was cool. I did something for YouTube with him. So yeah, a lot of guys support. I don't have a ton of like NBA like friends per se, and I think that's just because like the majority of my career I'm always traveling the world and doing all these things, and not that I don't go to NBA games here and there, but I just never was like interconnected because our schedules are so different.
Just to revert back to And1 a little bit, what do you think, or what made it happen? What made it end? Why did it? Why did it lose its kind of juice or popularity? And what era would you say that happened? Yeah.
Well, I know exactly when it happened. I'm actually getting ready to make this video on my YouTube channel. It's funny that you even asked that. The title is "What Happened to And1 Mixtape," or "What Happened to And1 and the And1 Mixtape Tour." But no. So 2005. The same day that I got this Sports Illustrated magazine right here, it's hanging on my wall. The same day that I looked at it, that very same minute that I looked at it, they told me, hey, the company's just been bought out by new ownership. And at the time, I'm like 20 or 21 years old, and I don't even really know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, I was really just playing basketball and collecting a check. I really wasn't business-minded when I was that age. Some kids are nowadays, but like I was just playing ball, living the dream, having fun. So when they told me that, I didn't think tons of it. I was like, oh, okay, like, we still gonna have a job? And they're like, yeah, like, it's all good. It's just, different ownership, blah, blah, blah. So it was really like one conversation. I know the OGs, they knew more about it. They went into deeper conversations, but, I was just, as long as we had the TV show with a tour and a job, I'm like, cool. So that was actually the changing of everything. The tour preceded 2006, 7, and 8, but every year from then on, it was like less and less money put into the mixtape tour. And so to where by the time 2008 was up, we were already in that little recession, and $30 to $50 million tours weren't going to be as ideal. People weren't going to put their sponsorship dollars into something like that at that time. So with the whole new regime that came in, there was a new regime that came in 2008. And their viewpoint on things were like, hey, it's a recession. Hey, we want And1 to be more well-rounded. We don't want it to be just so centered and known for just street ball. Like, let's get in the NBA and try to face these guys. Which, was an interesting spin. It was like, I can't discredit them because it was a recession and you shouldn't be centered in something. But, the brand was built off street ball. So it was a tough move. And they were already in the NBA really heavy when we were playing a mixtape tour. I think 70% of the league wore And1, actually. It was just that they didn't face those guys as much because streetball had its own following. And NBA guys were playing in the games and wearing the gear because of Skip to My Lou and the mixtape culture that was created prior to the TV show. So when they didn't put it back on ESPN 2009, I think it was like, hey, the recession's here, we're going to go a different route. And I think the new team that was brought in, they just weren't as familiar with streetball either. So I think that played a role. But yeah, so I don't think the market pushed it away. I think And1 kind of took it a different direction under new ownership.
Got it. Do you think if it was the modern era with all the digital distribution, things would have played out differently?
Man, you'd think so. I think, yeah, I mean, the following we would have had back then would have been bananas. You know what I mean? Because And1 was in 40 countries, and those were the countries we would tour when we went to play internationally. And, like, we could go to the most remote places, and there's always two channels, right? There's CNN and ESPN. And, like, literally we would go to some random country in Asia where it's like a third world situation. You have some old school TV. I literally would be there in the room and flip it on, and CNN and change the channel, ESPN, we'd be on. So I think if digital was around at the time, our individual brands would have been crazy. There's no telling how they would have branded digitally, because you still got to be savvy as a company. But you know, they were so good at marketing. Otherwise, I can't see why it wouldn't have been a huge online sensation.